Hey babe, there's something deeply weighing on my heart, and it's about us. I've been carrying this around for a long time, and the weight has become too heavy to hold on to by myself. I want you to know that you matter to me, that I've cared for you so deeply, but there is a reality pressing down on both of us that we can no longer ignore. I've tried pushing it aside for as long as I could, hoping that maybe it would evaporate on its own, but it hasn't. It's time for us to have a real, honest, and open conversation, one that I believe could change everything we've known together. I'm aware that saying this out loud might create anxiety or fear, and I want you to know that I see those feelings, I understand them, and they matter to me. But this is a truth I cannot keep hidden anymore. There is a discussion coming up next week, and although it affects me personally, it's not a decision I'm making alone. Your perspective, your voice, and your emotions are all going to play a critical role. Furthermore, there is a third person involved, someone who, over time, has become intertwined in our story in ways that I never imagined. This has gone beyond something casual or minor. It has reached a point where we all need to be clear, to sit down, and to confront what has been building for months, maybe even years, in one form or another. I know that is difficult to hear. Perhaps it's shocking, but I don't want there to be any secrets or illusions left. You deserve honesty from me, in all its complicated and messy forms. I want to be transparent about the fact that this conversation with the other person is not going to be trivial. We've been avoiding it for a while, both out of fear and uncertainty about what it might reveal about our relationships, yours and mine, and also the one I have with them. But avoidance only creates bigger problems in the long run. When you consistently turn away from what your heart is trying to tell you, the pressure builds until it can't be contained. That's exactly where I am right now. It's as though every day that passes, every silent moment, has been piling onto this big, looming topic, and now we can't escape it. I realize that the words third person alone might cause a stab of pain. Let me say right now, I'm not here to downplay or dismiss your feelings. You have every right to be hurt, surprised, upset, or even angry. I can only hope you'll allow me to explain the entire story because you deserve the truth and you deserve the complete picture of what's been happening. It's never been my intention to cause you pain or to leave you in the dark. So I'm here, ready to explain every detail, no matter how difficult it might be. I value you enough to want you to see the entire mosaic of my emotions and decisions, as opposed to a one-sided or watered-down version of the truth. This upcoming talk is not just a check-in or a quick chat to clear the air. It's a conversation that has the potential to change everything: our relationship, my relationship with this other individual, and my entire direction in life. I know that sounds intense and maybe even overblown, but it's how I honestly feel. Sometimes in life, we arrive at a crossroads where everything can be redefined in a single encounter. This is one of those moments. I recognize that you and I have to move through it together, even though the talk next week involves me and the other person on a more immediate level. Your support, your insight, and your presence mean everything. Even if we disagree or see things differently, I need you to understand where I'm coming from, because you are important to me. Always. Let me share the truth that has been growing inside me for some time. There's been a disconnect between us. I'm not saying we don't love each other or that our time together hasn't been meaningful. It has. We've shared so many moments of laughter, joy, and closeness that I will never forget. But it seems that somewhere along the line, something changed. Maybe it was gradual and subtle at first, so subtle that we tried to pretend it wasn't there. We hoped it was just a phase or a bump in the road. The reality, though, is that the distance only grew deeper. In trying to figure out why I felt this sense of emptiness, I ended up in a complicated situation with someone else. If there is any point in this letter that hurts, I know it might be this one. I'm not proud of how it happened, but at the same time, I can't deny that in seeking to understand myself, my needs, and what was missing, I found myself gravitating toward another person. I never planned it. I never woke up deciding to dismantle the foundation we built together. But human emotions can be tricky. Sometimes they pull us toward truths we haven't recognized yet. This other person showed up in moments when I felt especially lost, and through our interactions, I discovered parts of myself that I couldn't see clearly before. Over time, our conversations and the emotional space we shared made me realize that I was yearning for something more, something that I felt was no longer thriving between the two of us. And this is the painful part to admit. I have feelings that led me to question everything about where I'm heading in life, who I want to be, and what kind of relationship truly fulfills me. I felt torn and guilty for a while, trying to suppress these realizations because I didn't want to face what they implied. But eventually, it became unbearable to stay silent, and I recognized that it was unfair to you, to me, and to the other person as well. We all deserve clarity, honesty, and the chance to move forward in whatever way aligns with our authentic truths. Next week, this talk that's looming on the horizon is an attempt to bring full honesty to the table. It's a chance for me to lay everything out, to express what has been on my mind, in my heart, and to explain the reasons behind my choices. Because, as difficult as it is to say, I believe that we are at a crossroads that requires a real decision. To keep living in ambiguity, half truths, and avoidance would only deepen the hurt and prolong the confusion. You deserve to know the entire story. How I got to this place, why I feel I can't continue living in the same patterns, and what I hope for all of us as we move forward. I have spent countless nights awake, my thoughts swirling with regret, worry, and yes, even hope. Because in all of this, there is a seed of hope that maybe the outcome will allow each of us to find the right path. That might mean healing and rekindling something we thought was lost, or it might mean recognizing that the time has come for us to part ways so that both of us can grow. We've seen relationships falter when honesty is withheld, and it's precisely that fear that pushes me now to be transparent before it's too late, before the distance between us becomes too wide to mend or too painful to salvage. Let me be candid about what this upcoming decision might entail: letting go. For weeks, I've wrestled with whether letting go is the right move or a heartbreak that I can't handle. I wish there were an easier solution, something that didn't involve pain, confusion, or heartbreak. But life often requires us to face the hardest truths head on. I know you must have felt the shifts between us, the times when our once familiar intimacy turned into something that felt distant, the moments when our conversations felt forced, and the times we tried to pretend that everything was still the same, but knew deep down that it wasn't. We can't deny the changes that have taken place. We can't continue holding on to memories of who we used to be, hoping that they'll magically bring us back to a place that feels safe and happy. The sad reality is that nostalgia, while powerful, can't fix what's broken in the present. And if we try to force ourselves to cling to a relationship that no longer nourishes us, or to remain for the sake of avoiding confrontation, we risk losing not just each other, but also who we truly are. I do not take this lightly. The idea of letting go is terrifying because I know how much we've shared: laughter, tears, inside jokes that only you and I could understand, the comfort of waking up next to each other, and all the highs and lows that made up our shared story. There's a tenderness there that I treasure. And yet, that same tenderness can't single-handedly mend the gaps that have grown between us. It's not about assigning blame to either of us. Relationships evolve, people change, and sometimes we outgrow the space we once occupied together. When I envision us having this conversation, I see an honest exchange. Tears might fall, voices may shake, but the truth will be there in front of us. In that truth, there is an invitation to clarity, to growth, and perhaps even to forgiveness, though I don't presume to know what shape forgiveness might take in your heart. My hope is that by facing this together, we can each walk away with the self respect that comes from telling the truth, no matter how brutal, and from hearing the other person's perspective with as much compassion as we can muster. We both deserve relationships, whether it's with each other or separately, that feed us, challenge us in healthy ways, and inspire us to be better individuals. Sometimes, love means stepping aside when you realize you can't be the partner the other person needs anymore. Sometimes, love means acknowledging that you've found new dimensions to yourself that weren't visible before, and that you have to follow a path that scares you because it might lead to the person you're meant to become. These are not easy realizations. They involve heartbreak, tears, and the grief of letting go of a future you might have once imagined together. But growth can't happen when we stay clinging to illusions of what once was. I can't promise that this discussion will be smooth or without pain. In fact, it likely will be one of the hardest talks we've ever had. But I do promise that I'll be there, fully present, ready to listen to you with my whole heart and to speak with as much honesty as I can. I won't shy away from your questions or your feelings because that wouldn't be fair to either of us. And I ask you to trust that what I'm doing now, being this open and vulnerable, is the only way I know how to truly respect the time we've spent together. It's possible that after this conversation, we decide to part ways for good, choosing separate paths that might offer us the chance to grow in ways we can't if we stay together. It's also possible there's a solution we haven't seen yet, one that emerges in the raw light of truth. While I don't want to give you false hope or lead you on, I also don't want to close the door on understanding before we've both had the chance to air our emotions fully. All I know is that in order for any path, separate or together, to be found, we need to step into the light of honesty and let go of the illusions that have kept us in limbo.